second. I should have some running around. If not sage, at least a candle. We may be candle free this morning, so instead, we'll start with a little bell. Ready? Okay. Take a deep breath and listen to this beautiful meditation bell. Nice way to start the day sometimes, with a reminder of who we are and what we're supposed to be doing. So this morning was a tough morning for me. I've got a lot going on in my life. I've got my dad's in the hospital again. He's dealing with some health concerns. He's dealing with another bout of cancer. My parents are getting older. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and there's a lot of women who are struggling with mental and emotional health. So on my end, there's been a lot on my shoulders. And I've been starting to do weekly healing sessions with people so that they know what I do. I have regular specific practices that I do every day or at least several times a week that help keep me level. You know, one of the biggest changes for me was for the longest time, I was in the mindset of, oh my God, this is happening to me. What can I do about it? Why, thank you. I feel for you too. You know, I spent a lot of time in that space of wondering and worry and thinking that life was supposed to be hard. And so when I woke up this morning and I was off center, I knew exactly what I needed to do because I know how to get myself back to a level place. So when you have a narcissist in your life, you feel constantly on edge, not just because of the pandemic, not just because of your job, but because of everything that's coming at you, especially if you're empathic. And we get into this mindset, we get into this belief, this idea that that this is the way that it is, that life sucks and you just have to deal with it. It took me literally decades to realize that that wasn't true and to start recognizing that I had more power than I thought. So I'm Rita Hickman, body-mind expert. I'm a shiatsu massage therapist, and I use all of these tools, all of this, all of my wisdom around how we find inner peace physically, how we find inner peace, and I share it with everybody, especially those who are in narcissistic and toxic relationships. If you've been in a narcissistic relationship for a long time, you tend to think this is it, this is all there is, this is where I'm stuck. Many women are in relationships or married to narcissists or toxic people, people with borderline personality, people with bipolar who have a difficult time managing their emotions, ADD, ADHD. A lot of women are living with these people, and there's this idea that it's going to last for forever, that where you're at now is where you're going to be 20, 30, 40 years from now, even if you're in your 40s and 50s. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. You don't have to stay in this space any longer. We get attuned to this idea that that we are who a narcissist says we are, that we are sad, that we're angry, that we're discombobulated, that we're anxious, that we're off balance. And many women embrace this idea. They have a really hard time with self-esteem if they've been in a toxic relationship for a long time. You don't know what's true. And because there can be this shame, you know, that you're having this struggle, that you're not perfect, that you're not handling things well. There's all of this shame around it. And you've forgotten who you are and who you want to be if you don't have a narcissist in your life. So if you've got someone who's a toxic person, you'll probably keep going down the path of, oh my God, is this what the rest of my life is going to look like? Am I going to wake up in a bad mood? Am I going to go to sleep in a bad mood? Am I going to have a heavy dark cloud over my head for the rest of my life? Maybe this is just the way that it is. Maybe it's been that way since you were a kid. It's not true. The mind shift you want to make is that when you do things that make you feel good, you get back to your higher self. Now, I know the world kind of lies to you, and they, you know, on the one hand, the little hand puppet says, hey, if you take care of yourself, it's selfish and self-absorbed because people need you. But on the other hand, you have the other voice that says, you know what, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can keep showing if I can keep being the person that everybody else wants me to be. You have to find a balance. You don't have to sacrifice yourself and get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker until everything breaks down. You actually have to make the shift where you decide to save yourself. You decide you don't want to feel anxious inside anymore, no matter what's happening around you. You don't want to feel off balance. And that's when you start making better choices. You make better choices like I did this morning. When I woke up this morning, anxious, my stomach's in a knot, is my dad going to die any day? Or am I watching him pass? Is he going to keep going to the hospital time after time? I've got this worry on my mind, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it just sort of hangs around. Maybe you're worried about your marriage. Maybe you're worried about your kids. Maybe you're worried about alcoholism in your family. Maybe your parents are struggling too. All of these heavy weights that are on you, you don't have to just ignore. So what I did this morning when I felt off balance was I took that and I meditated. Let me make sure. I made sure I took that time and I meditated. I took that time to listen to the music that made me feel good. I took that time to look out the window and watch the birds. So I woke up in space, and instead of just saying I need to ignore it and I need to power through it, I said, no, I need to stop. I need to get myself in a good space. I've got 3 tools that I use. I use havening, which is where you stroke your arms 20 times. I use TAT points, which are acupressure points that flip your nervous system back into something that's calm. And I have a third one where I visualize what's bothering me. I point at it. I put it about a foot in front of me, and I turn left. I turn counterclockwise 3.5 times. I was doing that all morning this morning for at least 45 minutes to an hour. I was doing the havening. I was doing the TAT points, but I most especially was doing what I call the pointy thingy. And I was able to do it around all of my fears around my dad. Now, Maureen says, when you quit talking to a narcissist, the world embraces you in its arms again, and you live your life on your free will again. Yes, that's exactly what happens. You take back your free will. So instead of me laying in bed like I was, when I woke up, oh no, what's going to happen? Or that feeling of dread that you just sort of keep under wraps. Maybe you keep under wraps by giving to other people or doing to other people or working harder or doing more. Maybe you keep it under wraps by constantly staying distracted. But you need to deal with that anxiety that you feel. And the way that I deal with it, as I said, is by taking the time to regulate my nervous system. So this morning, I'm telling you, I'm laying on the couch. I've got my brainwave meditation music, in my ears. And I'm havening and I'm TAT points and I'm pointing it, the thing about my dad in the hospital and my mom being alone and I'm picturing all of those things and I'm breaking out of it. Because when you take the time to decide you don't want to be the person that a narcissist is turning you into, you don't want to be the person that someone who is toxic is manipulating, you don't want to be the person that wakes up and doesn't like the people that you love. You don't want to be the person that wakes up and yells at your dog or loses your cool or has a meltdown in front of your staff. You don't want to be that person. And that's who you're becoming when you let yourself go down that rabbit hole. If you buy into the idea that you're the person that a narcissist thinks you are, if you buy into the idea of the messages and the thoughts that were given to you as a kid about who you were and what your responsibility was, what a good woman is, if you buy into that, you're not going to break free. You have to say to yourself, I need to take my control back. I need to take my power back from a toxic person, from a situation, from a difficult, stressful situation. I have to take it back. And the way you take it back is by making better decisions. The first thing you always need to do when you're stressed out, when you're overwhelmed, is to pause and do something that brings you back to balance. So this morning I could have stayed in bed. I could have worried. My face was scrunched up. I could have, laid there and let all the fantasies and all the fears sort of circulate in my brain. But I didn't. Instead, I got up and I started to do the things that I know make me feel good. Sometimes I go for a walk for 2 miles in the morning at 6 a.m. Sometimes I make sure that I eat some oatmeal or something that makes me feel warm and good. Sometimes I meditate. The other morning I went outside and I laid on the grass because it was a beautiful morning. I spread a blanket out and I just laid on the grass and I laid there and I connected with the earth. Because I'm doing these things instead of falling into the trap of who a narcissist thinks you should be, or falling into the trap of who someone told you should be. You're making a different decision. You're not waking up and powering through and ignoring it and pretending like the anxiety and the frustration and the hurt and the stress aren't happening. You aren't pretending that anymore. You need to sit there and say, yeah, I'm struggling. This is a hard time. What do I want to do about it? And you're not going to feel better by people pleasing. You're not going to feel better by trying to control the narcissist, because you know that doesn't work. By trying to be the person that is bigger or better or smarter or more enlightened or more balanced or more level. You're not trying to be that person anymore. You're recognizing what's going on with you, how you feel, and you're doing something about it. Concrete. You're doing something about it. Maybe you take a Xanax. Maybe you say, you know what, I'm not willing to go down this rabbit hole right now. And you take something that balances you out. Maybe you live someplace where, pot's legal, and you use that to help you manage your anxiety. It's a very, very healing, powerful plant if that's something that you use to keep you balanced out. Maybe you stay on top of your vitamins. Maybe you stay on top of connecting with nature. But you have to make this a priority. You have to look at yourself and say, I don't feel well. And when you don't feel well, whether it's from a narcissist who's been attacking you, whether it's from the job you're going to every day, whether it's just the overwhelming doom and gloom around this political election that's happening to everybody, no matter what it is, no matter what happens, you are finding your balance again. It's not about controlling life around you. It's about recognizing where you're at and what's going on and doing something to put yourself in a good space again. Maureen says, thank you. Every time I get on this thread, you feel like you're stealing my stage and disrupting your class, even though I say it's okay. It is okay. Because when you take the time, when all of us take the time, whether we've got a narcissist in our life anymore or not, when we take the time to stay balanced, we're open to different opinions, different ideas. We have an open mind. When you're constantly shut down, when you're constantly dysregulated, you have a closed mind. One of the symptoms of that is that you see things black and white. You're seeing it everywhere, aren't you? You're seeing everything black and white. Many people are. When you keep doing the things that fulfill you, that nourish you, before you try to get anything done, before you try to push through, you'll actually be able to get stuff done. You won't feel like you're carrying, a backpack filled with rocks on your back up, Mount Kilimanjaro. Kimberly says, we're here. You are loved. God's in control. Pray I have and receive all the support and care I need during this time. Warm hugs, North Alabama. Take excellent care of you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Yeah, because this is life. When you start to get healed, when you start to get balanced or enlightened, it's not that life goes away. You just know how to handle it. So when you wake up and you're in a bad space, you make a very conscious choice to do something different. You don't sit in it, in that pain and suffering, and power through. Instead, you say, I'm going to make some art. I'm going to go for a walk. Because everybody else wants you to be fine, and they're going to keep telling you that they need stuff from you and you have to be present. You're going to have this voice in your head that's, your mother or your father saying, well, good women do this and good women do that. That's what a good woman looks like. You know what? This is what it looks like to live a human life. In fact, one of the interesting things about when you get more regulated, about when your system gets more in balance, is that you become more authentic with your emotions. You don't hide them anymore. Because what gets in the way of you feeling good, whether you have a narcissist in your life or not, are the chemicals and the stresses that are still on your system. One of the reasons I meditate, or I take the time to listen to meditation music, is because there's a wall between what I'm thinking, my conscious mind, and what I'm feeling. And when you start doing the things that make you feel good, you're able to get rid of the things that you feel. So um, instead of me sitting there and worrying, instead of me sitting there and getting hijacked and being angry all the time and pointing fingers and blame and why do you do this to me and why do you make me feel crazy and why is this happening to me? We can go down that path and that's going to keep us stuck. That's going to keep us stuck in that regulation. And I know a lot of us have tried in our life to change how we look, to change how we see the perspective just through our thinking. You need more. You can't just try to change your thoughts because your thoughts are a side effect of what's going on in your system. You need to actually do something that's loving for yourself. You have to actually do something that respects how you feel. Instead of betraying yourself again and saying, I know how I feel, I'm just going to ignore it and push through because there's nothing I can do and stuff has to get done and everybody wants me to do everything anyways, and why should I bother? That's a very normal conversation we have with ourselves, whether we're aware of it or not. But when we stop and say, oh, look, I'm not in a good space today. What do I want to do about it? And you can't just do one thing and say it didn't work. You give up, you throw up your hands, you say, well, it didn't work, so I'm not going to bother. It takes you honestly wanting to move out of that space of hurt and anxiety. And that has to be your highest priority more than anything. Your highest priority has to be, how do I get myself back into a level regulated state? Kimberly says, I'll cry and grieve for you and with you for a little while, then we'll laugh and play, just like I taught you. Yes, that's exactly how it works. Because life isn't about shutting things down. It isn't about compartmentalizing it, putting it away. It isn't even about getting rid of everything. It's about being able to handle the things that happen in life, handle them without destroying yourself. You're always going to have toxic people. You're always going to have narcissists. You're always going to have stress. If it's not the pandemic, it'll be your job. If it's not your job, it'll be your family. If it's not your family, it'll be fears that you can't even identify or diagnose. It's always going to be something. And so it's not about who you are when you feel off balance. It's about recognizing when you feel off balance and taking really important steps to laugh and play, like Kimberly says, to be a part of something bigger. If you don't put yourself first, your emotional needs first, you will feel like you are treading water and your legs are tied. If you take care of your emotional needs first, if you recognize where you're at, if you recognize how you're feeling, and you do something about it. This morning I spent at least 45 minutes to an hour havening and TAT points and doing my pointy thing around my dad and around the things which are coming up around them. When you're authentic, your life changes. And you can be authentic when you authentically listen to yourself, when you authentically listen to your needs. And instead of saying, oh, well, why didn't you get up and do something different? What's wrong with you? Instead, you say, wow, I feel that you're hurting. I see that you're hurting. What do you need? Let's do something to make yourself feel better. You have to parent yourself. You have to take that higher step. And no matter what anybody else says, even the voice in your head, if you don't flip that switch, if you don't decide that you are more important than all of the things around you, if you don't decide that other people are responsible for their own emotions, if you don't decide that you're responsible for your emotions and you're going to do something about it, you're going to feel trapped. You're going to feel stuck. I would have spent the whole day. It would have been a ruined, wasted day because I would have been trapped in that low level of anxiety that I was trying to manage. And you may be feeling that way yourself. You may feel like you've got this constant depression or constant anxiety that never really goes away. It just sort of simmers and bubbles underneath the surface. That may be exactly where you're at. When you start doing things that change your mind, when you start doing things that shift your energy purposely, you break out of it and you start to move forward and you become the person that you're supposed to be. You become the person that you are without a narcissist, because the whole world is being very narcissistic right now, and you have to become the safe place for yourself. So if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like this is way too much and overwhelming, you don't know how to get through and you need some support, reach out. inspiremassage.com. Soon it'll be ritahickmancoaching.com. I do one-on-one coaching. I do 2 at least free strategy calls, for us to see whether whether we'll get along. I've got a group. We do classes. We do workshops. I do healing circles. There's so much available for you. And if you're ready to start breaking out of that old belief pattern of who you're supposed to be and start stepping into the new version of you, reach out, because you can do this. We can get you there, and it's going to be okay. Okay? Even when life throws you more curveballs, you'll be able to handle them gracefully, lovingly, and without disappointing yourself. Okay? So, have a great rest of your day. I plan on it. I'm in a way better space than I was when I woke up. Thank you for being here. And I'll talk to you later, okay? Bye.